The Barden were not just a chaotic a cappella group, but a perfect embodiment of the 7 deadly sins. Let's get into this. Now, just imagine if one of the most random side characters in Pitch Perfect as well, the misogynistic commentator that I really just can't stand, John Smith, he isn't random at all either, but secretly tied to Aubrey in a way that changes how you see this whole bitch, right? You know how it goes. Once we see it, we're not unseeing it. And I know that there are more than 7 Barden Bellas. Duh. But let me explain that. Chill. Let's get into this. Because on the surface, Pitch Perfect is about music, competition, and finding your voice, all that, you know? But underneath, it's about control, some obsession, identity, and excess, if you think about it. Each Bella isn't just a personality type as much as they're exaggerated to the point of symbolism. Almost like they're not just characters, but representations. Because over time you watch it, you see every character is different in their own way. And once you line them up, you start to notice something specific. They mirror the 7 deadly sins almost perfectly. Now let me break it down, because the structure of the Bellas is everything. Firstly, the Bellas are introduced as a broken system, right? Aubrey runs things with rigid control, and Chloe likes to find the loyalty and everything. Everyone else just feels like chaos. They're not balanced, they're extreme though, for sure. And that's important because the 7 deadly sins aren't just flaws as much as they are imbalances of human nature taken too far. And every Bella pushes one trait past the point of reason, each and every one. And if you don't know, the 7 deadly sins is pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, I think, and sloth. Yeah. Now, with that being said, let's talk about how Becca is a sloth. Because at first glance, Becca doesn't seem lazy, well, kinda. But the sloth isn't about physical laziness. It's about emotional avoidance. And as we know, Becca refuses to engage. She doesn't want to be a Barden, even though at the end of the day, we can tell she kinda did. But she doesn't want to be a Barden. She resists connection, is really what it is. She's literally saying she doesn't want to try. And I quote, "I just don't want to be here." That's sloth. That's not inactivity, but refusal to care. Even her talent, her music, is hidden behind headphones. She's disengaged from the world until she's forced to confront it. Now that's how Becca's the sloth. Let's talk about how Aubrey is pride. And this one's obvious and intentional. Aubrey is pride in its purest form. She doesn't just want to win, she needs perfection. Needs perfection. And that's control. Here's the image. We're not the kind of group that gets drunk, sings about sex. Her identity is tied to being better with that quote. And when that image cracks, she spirals. Pride isn't confidence, it's fragile superiority. Don't forget that. And Aubrey lives and dies by it. Now we know Becca's a sloth and Aubrey is pride. Let's talk about Fat Amy and gluttony, because that's what she is. Fat Amy literally names herself to control how others perceive her. She's excessively in everything. Food, humor, energy, presence, all of that. And I quote, "I call myself Fat Amy, so twig bitches like you don't say it behind my back." You know how she said. Gluttony isn't just eating. It's overindulging in identity, right? So break it down. She takes up space intentionally. She consumes attention, and that's what makes her powerful and symbolic. And ultimately, that's what makes her one of the best characters, if not the best character in the cast, or the movie or series or the saga, whatever you want to call it. But here's where things started to get a little twisty. Because remember when I told you that there were more than 7 Barden Bellas, right? And I'd explain how this makes sense as to why this is a representation of the 7 deadly sins. Here comes a twist. Bumper is wrath, so it's not all the Barden Bellas. Even though he's a troublemaker, Bumper mirrors wrath because he's aggressive, he's dominant, and it's cringe. He has that explosive energy. He even says, "I am Bumper Allen, and I am the best." Wrath isn't just anger as much as it's intimidation as identity. So he tends to bulldoze everything in his path until he's removed from the equation, which we ended up seeing in the movie, right? So again, I know that there are more than 7 Barden Bellas, but this theory makes sense because it's not just the Barden Bellas that are being represented as the 7 deadly sins. It's almost like the main characters or the characters we're chosen to see more than others are the ones who represent the 7 deadly sins. But anyways, Jesse's lust. That's my thing. Jesse's entire arc revolves around connection, but specifically romantic obsession. He pushes Becca emotionally, almost too much, like in an Edward way. He wants closeness on his terms. And I quote, "You don't love me." Lust isn't just physical, it's emotional fixation. So he wants to break through her walls. Cracking. Even when she's not ready. That's crazy now. But yeah, he wants to break through her walls even when she's not ready. And that's lust. Even from honestly the moment when we first see him, he just sees her and he's just like, "I'm gonna just sing and play air guitar to this girl." And like without a seatbelt on, I'm pretty sure too. From the second he saw her, he was just like trying to woo her in a sense. So you got to keep in mind, like, old buddy's been lustful, right? And that takes me into the next one. And you got to think outside the box with this theory, because that's what I do constantly. That's why I am where I am. Greed is the group itself. Here's where it gets interesting. If you like this video so far, hit that like and subscribe. Greed isn't just one person. It's the group mentally, right? It's the group's mentality as a whole. The Bellas want to win so badly they refuse to change. They recycle the same songs, the same structure, the same formula. And boy, if you like this movie enough, it is the most stressful thing to see them keep going in with this insane ass mentality, thinking that they're going to win with a losing structure, like a losing routine is the weirdest thing. But like they say, we're doing the set list over and over. Cringe. Greed is clinging on to what works even when it's killing you, right? And we all know greed, especially if you live in America. It looks like insanity because by definition, it is. You're holding on to something that once worked, but you don't know that it will work again. You just know it once did. So you're going to, even if it gives you the exact same outcome, you're going to just keep doing it until it works again. That's some American shit. Now, you remember when I brought up John, the commentator, misogynistic dickhead. Let's talk about him. They are the setup, right? Because this is the weirdest part about the movie. The commentators, John Smith and Gail, somehow they are the most, how do you say it? They're exactly who you wouldn't want behind the mic of someone that's speaking globally to other people. Yet somehow they are able to talk however they want to, say whatever. It's the weirdest thing ever. Almost as if it's not really what you're seeing. They exist outside the story, but comment on it. Almost like judges, observers. And John, he's cold, precise, and very unemotional. You know, misogynistic dickhead. Brutally honest at the same time. So it's like, let's talk about it. Because with the commentators being the setup, that gives them some significance, right? And when you really sit with it, the commentator, John Smith, doesn't just sound like Aubrey. He sounds like the person who raised her. Keep in mind, there's that same tone, there's that rigidity, and that obsession with perfection. In Pitch Perfect, Aubrey isn't just trying to win, she's trying to be flawless, as if someone's there checking her flawlessness, right? Because somewhere along the way, she learned that anything less than perfect is failure. And John, he doesn't cheer, he doesn't encourage, he just critiques. He's cold, precise again. And on top of that, he's very unforgiving, right? He even says that was pitchy and unfortunate. It's like crazy. That's not just commentary. It's like the kind of voice that sticks with you, you know? It's the kind that shapes you. So maybe John Smith isn't just watching the Bellas from a judging table. Maybe he's been in Aubrey's head the entire time, which is why she's such a perfectionist. Because if he is her father, then every performance isn't just a competition. It's Aubrey trying and failing and finally trying to hear that good job from her father. So that's my little side theory with this. Is the fact that not only is this a setup for the 7 deadly sins, that commentator that's a dickhead is Aubrey's father, which is why she's so tenacious when it comes to this competition. And don't forget, that's his entry into being the setup for the 7 deadly sins. Again, that's still there, right? But this is why it changes everything, because suddenly Aubrey's breakdowns don't feel over the top anymore. They feel earned, right? Her control issues, her fear of change, her obsession with tradition, it's not just pride. It's pressure. It's inherited. Because if John Smith is her father, then the Bella's biggest obstacle was never the troublemakers as much as it was the impossible standard Aubrey was trying to live up to. And that's why the ending matters. Because when the Bellas finally break away and change their sound, take more risks, and win on their own terms, dude, oh, it's the most satisfying thing ever, A. And B, Aubrey doesn't just grow as a leader. She breaks free from him, you know, from that voice, from that expectation. And maybe that's the real story hidden inside the Pitch Perfect saga. Not just finding your voice, but learning when to stop listening to the one that's been holding you back all along. And that ties back to the 7 deadly sins. Again, each sin is pretty much that voice inside your head, keeping you from doing what you need to do by causing you to overindulge or overly obsess over the trait. Now, my favorite part. The theory in full. Here's a full picture, right? The Barden Bellas represent the 7 deadly sins. It's a system of imbalance. Each member embodies a flaw that prevents the group from evolving until Becca disrupts it. She forces change, the balance, the harmony. But here's the twist. John Smith isn't just a commentator. He represents judgment. And more specifically, he mirrors Aubrey. Again, the same rigidity, the same seriousness, same intolerance for imperfection. It's not subtle either. It's very parallel. So what if John Smith is actually Aubrey's father? Think about it. Aubrey's obsession with perfection doesn't come from nowhere. It's learned, it's conditioned, and reinforced. John's commentary style is cold, it's critical, and very unforgiving. And that sounds exactly like the voice in Aubrey's head. That was pitchy and unfortunate. Again, that quote is very important because it's not just commentary, it's a parental pressure that a lot of kids still have in their heads. He doesn't need to interact with her directly because his influence is already inside her, which means the entire competition isn't just external, it's Aubrey trying to live up to the standard she can never reach. So when the Bellas finally win, it's not just about music, even though I would say this is probably top 5 best soundtracks for any movie of all time. Okay, let's say 2010s and on, but like, dude, come on, crazy. But it's about breaking free, you know, more than the music. Breaking free from pride, from the fear, from expectation, and from the sins that define them. You know, they don't just find their sound, they find their balance. And maybe that's why it feels so satisfying, because deep down, we're not watching a singing competition. We're watching people overcome the worst parts of themselves without even realizing it. Because you got to keep in mind, these people are seen as like the cool kids in school. Like, but realistically, if you go to a college and talking about some acapella, they're the nerds too. Like Bumper talking about, I don't want to get your nerd on me. Bro, you are the nerd. You're just the A-list nerd, the S-tier nerd, but y'all nerds too. So I said to say, the fact that we're brought out of that perception is everything. You forget entirely what you're even looking at. It's a bunch of nerds singing. But when you break it down to this, it's something way more complex. Also, fun fact, Cynthia from the Barden Bellas, the black chick, she wrote like a grip of songs for Rihanna, which is why if you listen to her sing a cover of Rihanna's song, she sounds exactly like her because she wrote the song, gave it to Rihanna. So W Cynthia, she deserves her flowers for that. If you like these theories, hit that like. If you want to see more of these deep breakdowns and all that, you know I'm going to get to them. Hit the subscribe. You feel me? Keep your captions open and, you know, most of all, stay smooth.
Come on, 'cause I'm